seniors wanted to do their senior project, walking the trails and doing some work on trails. So they put about 18 hours worth of work in, and he wanted us to acknowledge them. So I just, sorry, I lost the page here, trying to bring up their picture. And I will, it has their names, and just share that. He wanted them to be acknowledged, which I think is nice.
Yep, we had 2 groups last year doing it, so 1 group this year. It's good. Many volunteer options as possible is a good thing.
So let's see. Do you see them? Yeah, there you go. Their names are Elise O'Brien. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll read their
Those are
names
not seniors.
afterwards, but that's them. So yay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're great looking senior.
High school seniors,
Oh, I thought you meant senior.
not seniors like.
Oh,
Some of us.
hey, wow. I mean, when you say.
It's a senior moment.
That was my
Really good.
That was my first take on it too. Like, no, it's high school seniors.
And I will put their names in the minutes. I can't exactly get them here right
Okay.
I have something in this whole bike on the Senate Trail. And I got way too many emails and way too many text messages about it, but whoever's doing it, and I walk on the trail between 5:45 and I'm off before 7. I used to encounter him, but now I don't. So if I encounter him, I'll come, but
Yeah.
he really is sort of making a mess in certain areas, and it's the same person on the same bike.
Can we put a camera up?
Doesn't Peter have this on the agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry.
E-bike
Oh, I'm sorry.
station, there's something about it.
Yeah, there was a note. It was a note. We were going to talk about it
Oh, well, yeah,
later. Yeah.
so,
So I just bring it up. It's.
Or no, I sent it around to everybody. So yeah,
Oh.
no, so I think
Could we,
that was actually,
could we ask the independent to help us out and?
no, I think
that's,
we had discussion about it. to
there
your
should be a
point.
discussion, but I'm saying in terms of this one,
Somebody wrote a letter
Perpetrator.
to the editor,
David,
Del Torio from, hi,
hi,
engineering wrote a letter to the editor.
David Dolomite wrote a letter.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was
Good.
Del Torio.
No, no. But I mean, the thing, what it really illustrates is that my experience with e-bikes is it starts and it gets worse and it gets worse.
I think there is a conversation to be had.
Yeah, and you need,
There is a solution, I think.
yeah, I think,
yeah, you need to really be proactive. Like once
No, I agree.
you can't deal with it.
okay, so
And it's that one bike is a demonstration of how much real damage someone can do.
No, I agree.
yeah, so with that, good segue, I'll roll into briefly what I talked with Elaine about. So I told her about our thoughts on a parking lot at East Main Street. She thought, she had some of the same concerns that we'd already expressed, which was, gee, what about wetlands issues and is there sightline? Chuck Dotchie actually went out there and looked at it, and he said that canal there is not a river, would not fall under the Rivers Act. He said we'd probably call it a wetlands because though even that's pushing it. But that way, but it should be fairly easy to deal with it. There is sightline. The surface, he said,
sorry, Peter, is that water a result of drainage from the road then?
No, it's a man-made.
there was that whole area probably flowed. A lot of Hopkinton has shallow till.
Yeah.
That flat area there, it probably all flowed across. If you go up in the hill there, it's all wet. Yeah, well, they just must dig their feet in pretty thoroughly going up there. So it all flowed across, and so the channel was cut to lower the water table and allow the use of that area. The area we're talking about for parking is actually,
The side of that sort.
yeah, Chuck went with his auger and he said he couldn't get down in most places. He hit stone right away. So scrape it off. It'll be pretty easy to fix. I also spoke with John Gelsich about it because we put in now 3 parking lots, and I've always gone with it's under 4 cars, therefore we don't need to go through the minor project permit or a major project permit, which is with larger number of cars. And John and I said, well, I put in 3, this would be a really, obvious one, front and center. Probably should follow the rules appropriately this time, and I'm just letting you know. And he's like, well, he said, those are really designed for downtown areas or for a building. He said, this is real, it's not really a parking lot as we think of it with asphalt and
Yeah.
striping. This is really, so we're calling it a parking area. So and there, that allows us to kind of put in what we want, what we think we need. And he was fine with that. Yeah, so that was very good. As far as town funds on non-town land that's used by the public, so halt land and stuff and things like that, Elaine said, this was really in response to your question with regard to bridges through coming from downtown and trying to head towards DCR headquarters, ultimately over towards Southborough train station. She said, so CPA funds can be used for some of that. That's within the purview of the Community Preservation Act, is to have money spent like that. As long as it's got a clear and defined public use, non-town entities can spend that money, or we could get money to spend on those type projects. For something like the DCR project, she said that would be probably a little dicier. And I said, well, what Jack is kind of looking for is an answer to the question, would the town consider spending money on that, on something like that? And she said, certainly, we'd consider spending money on putting bridges in on DCR land. So you can bring that.
Well, I think what would be good to do on that DCR, that project, is maybe if you're available, we set up a meeting with Rich to go talk to him, because my term expires in July on the Stewardship Council, so it would probably be a good time to do it before that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna reapply, but I don't know, so. But just to get it going and see if we can, and see if there's a lot of resistance or none.
Right.
And I was thinking about
We
it.
need to pause because I don't know what we're talking about, so I can't take the minutes. So what, you said Elaine said using CPC funds for something?
CPA funds are available by private citizens. Private citizens can apply for CPA funds
For what project?
for projects on public land. So
Generically.
putting in a trail,
Okay,
putting in a historic renovations on.
don't we know that already though?
Yes, we knew that one, but Jack had a specific question with regard to spending on DCR land.
Got it.
And so I was getting the answer to that specific question.
Okay,
So,
and what
mentioned
project
Rick.
is,
Who is Rick?
I think he's the supervisor.
Right.
Supervisor
Or
for.
DCR
The whole region.
of the region. Yeah, Hopkins and Ashland and
other state parks.
Yeah.
Administrative supervisor or?
Yeah.
and what project is this that we're talking about?
This is, there's 2 channels that run
Really?
east to west.
They're the main feeder to Hopkins Reservoir.
Yeah, but behind the hill that comes off of town, center of town. And if you were trying to connect to the trails over to that run behind the headquarters there. So if you're trying to connect over to Duck Pond Trail, for example, you have to cross these. So bridges.
No.
You have to, there's
They get the Duck Pond Trail?
It's a sidewalk.
a stone bridge that goes over that stream there.
You're right, and it goes to a sidewalk that goes right.
No, but if you're going to downtown from there,
Then you have to cross.
so you have to cross this.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
However,
I mean, if you bridge those 2 streams there, you would probably open up at least a mile of trail.
Right. And you can go from downtown
Yeah.
into
Potentially.
a nice network. Yeah.
yeah, so the alternative is if the Upper Charles Trails goes to the Hopkinton State Park, DCR has already said they will make accessible the accessibility to the train station from their property, from their park.
Right.
So that's another alternative. So it's not
Well-
like it's an impossibility.
Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't characterize them as alternatives. They're two different trails.
Right,
And they could both accomplish the same thing from different parts of town.
right.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually could get through there and then use DCR, then you could go from on that side of Hopkinton to the train station
So,
or the other.
to get a meeting with DCR.
I mean, I was thinking at some point to get in there and see if we could do it. Because even if you can't get out to 135, you can still open up a lot of trail that's not accessible certain times of the year.
You can get to the senior center, and come out Mayhew or something.
Yeah, but I think that link that they're talking about right there is.
It opens up a lot of possibilities.
Right, a
So
lot.
the idea is to work with that.
Yeah, you could go from the senior center in and go, yeah, there's a lot of different ways.
All right, Metro West Holdings, which is a parcel down at the end of Echo Trail that I've been trying to buy for years and years. I spoke with Elaine, she sent me to the finance or the tax folks because they haven't paid their taxes in forever. Apparently it doesn't rise, there's not enough money outstanding to push the tax lien route because there's costs associated with that. So that's not really an avenue right now. We talked about other options, which I think are essentially trying to buy it. The issue there has been getting hold of the landowner. I've talked to him a few times. He's hard to get hold of.
It's just like if you go out Echo Trail and you basically end up in somebody's,
It's
Side yard.
right. If you take a left, the town owns where there used to be an old horse barn down there, Betty Wyckoff's horse barn. That's her land. There's a piece that's directly south of that would allow you an upland way to get down to 85.
okay.
So if you wanted to connect to Milford,
Mm-hmm.
that's the closest and quickest way to do that.
So that would be on the east side of that main Echo Railroad. It seems like a railroad bed or something.
It's east side of that
Okay.
railroad bed.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the old railroad bed, the town should have bought. We didn't buy it. The Flannerys bought it. And so we can't really go down their driveway. That's not very fair. They bought it. We made it what I think was a bad decision back in the 70s, but
Yeah,
it's what it is.
right.
So is there any next step on that?
I'm gonna reach out to the landowner, try to find him again. He was bankrupt last time I talked to him in all sorts of ways, so I don't know. He's a character. Fitness equipment, they use at your own risk question. The town is working with their insurer. They've posed the question up the chain, so they will get back to us on that.
I'm just curious, did you happen to mention, like, there's no signs at playgrounds? So what
I did.
is- And did she have an answer for that?
No, she said she was aware of it, but she said, no, it's sort of, you've raised an issue, raise it with our insurance.
There's no signs of playgrounds, not even,
No,
not even at the EMW or anything?
No, because it's understood that,
I've never noticed, I guess.
well, the town has a blanket insurance policy, so.
Yeah.
right, in the town.
No, to me, it's some more of a warning or.
There might be some.
Right.
Wouldn't there be?
I also.
I believe you,
asked Dave Del Torrio.
about it. There's
Yeah.
soon to look.
Yeah, I asked the town engineer when we were looking at the fitness equipment, I said, do you come over and, you're the town engineer, do you check and make sure bolts are tightened and that sort of stuff? Protection for public use of private trail or land, trails on private land. I was looking to just have a letter, and certainly not an easement or own the land, which was Norman's solution to those two. There is a license you can do, a license agreement, and that's less than an easement, sort of does exactly what I want. So I'm going to work with Kurt Barner, who owns the land at 97 Ash Street, where that trail goes in, because that
Want
trail,
to spread the wealth though? You're taking all these on?
Well, that one, I'm gonna work with Elaine.
Up to you, but I'm just.
Yeah, I've had to work-
You take, no, I know, but you're
Yeah,
taking a lot
yeah.
of things on. I'm just sort of raising that
No.
awareness.
Well, somebody else can certainly take the fitness equipment, although I'm sure there's, you know. I mean, I think Linda, I think you were involved in that at some point. You put the sign up.
Happy to follow. I said
Yeah.
I would reach out to Elaine if you wanted it.
Yeah.
You wanted it, so, but I'm happy to follow up.
Well, no, I had a laundry list, so,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay, and I mean, I can, I know you made contact with those landowners at the end of Echo. I can try that if you want. Or again, I know, I'm just saying, like,
Well, it's true.
you're taking a lot on share, you know, we're trying to.
So, it's that when we choose priorities, I think we should also choose specialists. Peter doesn't have everything, so that will help.
So, and let's see, the final one was, we did talk about e-bikes briefly. I was up in Vermont and on one of the private properties up there, the guy has he allows mountain bikes and it's really cross-country skiing. This guy's put this in his backyard, basically, pretty extensive area, but he has signs up that say e-bikes, but no throttle, no e-bikes with throttles.
Mhm.
So that's the,
Yeah, it's so type 1 versus
Right.
type 2 and
Right.
3.
And that's the law.
But that's-
the law.
but the throttle, you know,
Makes it a type 2.
Correct.
right, it does, but it also it lets people know.
Yeah.
So there's a guy, an older gentleman who puts
I
around.
mean, like a warning sound,
Well, it's
because it's like.
well, something awareness.
Know which is which.
But if you
Thing.
have-
The people that own it. Yeah.
Right, if it has a throttle.
Because they would notice it like too.
Right.
If you have one, you'll know.
Yeah, exactly.
If
Yeah,
you
if it can go 40 miles an hour, it's.
So just, what the Milford Bike Trail did was rather than say the type, they put up a speed limit, which applies to regular bikes. Because regular bikes can go too fast.
Mhm.
I don't know how they're enforcing it, but that's
Right.
their law. And that's like what Lake Whitehall does. Any size boat you want, as long as you don't go more than whatever, 15 miles an hour. Or 10 miles, whatever it is. So that's another
Well, I
one.
know there's been a lot of, I don't know what you call it, a lot of chatter and more up in Lexington, the bike trail. I happened to talk to my doctor who's an active cyclist and there's been a lot of issues with e-bikes and trying to impose speed limits and the inability to enforce them. So
Yeah.
that's been a lot of newspaper articles that I read about that. So I think that the enforcement is challenging. I like the idea of type restriction because you'd still have to enforce it, but at least, you know, people could repair it
Open and
of a
shut.
different type versus I saw them going 50 miles or 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, and I think enforcement is.
To get out there with the rain.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll see, you can say someone.
Yeah, and it,
Get one.
enforcement's like, I think with a lot of things, like the dog leash issue that we tried
Right.
to deal with last time. Enforcement is a big part of the issue.
Right.
Yeah.
The police force really doesn't want to be enforcing those kind of things. They really prefer not to have to deal with it.
So I think education then becomes a
Right.
big piece of it. It's like, here's,
And
do something,
so-
say something.
Yes.
Well, but if we're honest, they're going to be independent in other places and, you know, here's the two type of e-bikes.
Yep.
Can
If
I,
you have to pedal the whole time, you're okay. If you have a little,
Yeah.
can I just say though, I find that a little too selective because you're only gonna buy one e-bike, you might probably. And
Right.
let's say you really do need the higher speed one for some of your riding, but you want to be able to use it on trails. It feels a little unfair to not be able to use it if you're gonna go slow. That's all.
I agree with you, Linda. If somehow we come up with a magic number and, you know, nothing over 18 miles an hour or whatever it is.
I don't think we have the experience at this
No.
point to
I
make a
think-
decision. So I think we need to wait on these other folks because you're right. I think the issue is you try to enforce a speed limit.
It's not going to happen.
Doesn't work. You've got to have something that's enforceable, but in reality, there's always going to be the one kid creating problems and you've got to deal with them somehow. But most people, as long as, you know, you talk to them, are willing to be reasonable. So anyway, that was it for meeting with Elaine. I've since had some discussions with Elaine with regard to the next item on the agenda, which is a butters notice. So
Say,
Go ahead.
we have somebody from the public here, so do we want to open it up to public comments in case you wanted to say something?
I'm here as an active listener. I'm new to Hopkins. I came February 14th from Shrewsbury, 35-year resident there.
From where? I'm sorry.
Shrewsbury.
Okay.
My name is Dan Hickberg. I live at Deerfield Estates, Cole Drive, down Lumber Street.
Okay.
And I looked at this community and said, you know, how am I going to engage with the community? So I thought I would go to a couple different committee meetings that interest me and then see if there's a good fit for me. And that just here is to be informed.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm very informed at the moment. I mean, what I see here, just my initial reaction is some very committed people to do the right thing. And that's why I'm here too, because I'd like to contribute to that.
Do you have an interest in trails?
I don't have an interest in anything at the moment, but trails was on the top of my list.
Walk trails and.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
Great.
Yeah, so I,
Your perspective will be welcome.
Well, we're gonna give you an arm patch and say slow, it's gonna say slow down.
yeah, I didn't fall off my, but had a surgical,
Rotator cuff.
no, I had a reverse joint. So they took the,
Up French reverse?
yeah,
Wow.
Okay.
so they put the,
Sounds like an awful
put the socket where the ball,
It's fascinating. Almost had one done.
it's amazing. This is my second week out of hospital.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with it, Dan. And one thing we'll just share with you is there's a website for the Hopkinton Trails Club.
I plan to go there to the 14th.
Great. Okay, so the club is a community organization, not town appointed. And they conduct a monthly trail walk, a guided walk, and we have regular work days, volunteer work days, the
That
website,
was fine.
maps and things.
I think that's my next stop on my meeting. So I said, listen, investigate one. I'm not in any big hurry. I've been part of my community for a long time and it's about the fit and it's about where I can make a contribution. So
Well, thank you for coming.
Welcome.
I find it very interesting.
All right.
I just have a little bit more to add to the e-bikes.
Okay.
Acadia National Park, right? They have the old carriage roads, which gets a boatload of bike traffic. Yeah, boatload. I've done it so many times. It's wonderful. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend it. And their rules are type 1 and only type 1. They exclude the type 2. And there's a lot of hills. I mean, these are old carriage roads, so there's a lot of hills and stuff like that. And I see people of all ages on bikes, the electric assist and just the full non-electric bikes on it. What it's for. And
Do you know if there is any enforcement with it?
but that's the thing is that well, it's
It's a national park, right?
national park.
Yeah, they're with
That for the Rangers,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the one that's left.
I wonder, you know, is it worth doing a little bit of research on, I mean, is it a national park policy? I wonder.
Yeah, well, when we get
It's
into
isolated thing. It's probably not isolated to one.
Probably another discussion.
No, not today. I'm saying like,
Yeah,
That's
no,
follow-up.
good point.
yeah,
it sounds like there might be other like national or other type of park classes
Yeah.
that have rules that we may be able to just benefit from.
And cities and towns, yeah.
Angus, moving into abutters notices. So,
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry, just back on the e-bikes. Can we
no, done.
put up or something?
No,
No.
we're not, again, we'll talk about that in another
Okay.
meeting. Done with that for this meeting.
Okay, sorry.
Moving on. So abutters notices, we have two examples or two options, basically. The one that Sean put together, which is a sort of a package of, which has great information. There's much shorter one pagers that I was and have been using, which, brief discussion of the work that's being done and then a picture of kind of a map showing where the work's being done. What are folks' thoughts on the two?
I know there's overlap. I honestly I was thinking of a combined, because some people just absorb and learn differently in terms of like yours is almost like an executive summary.
Mhm.
And Sean's that highlights in terms of the detail that people might have questions or concerns that I think you could get more answers from personally.
So
I know
I thought they were the same, except you had more diagrams. Like I didn't see content differences in general.
Yeah.
Although I do have some comments on content in general, but I thought they were the same other than the pictures and doesn't hurt to include more pictures
Right.
and maps.
Yeah, I agree. Pictures are good.
Mhm.
It gives people more context and understanding how they may be impacted. That's what I liked about it.
Right, so, okay, so, I mean, I think it's gonna be on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
It just depends on the
Yeah.
area.
Can I, so I had feedback on it in general and thought we could have a template, so it makes it easy to do. I like the heading. I think a date of notice at the top of the heading would be really good, so you know when it came out. I liked your idea last time, Jack, about having like 1 or 2 sentence description of what the Trails Committee is. You would have the name of the property, the description of the project, the location, the work to be done. Some of them didn't seem to have the reason for the project, and I think that's really important. The benefits, the expected time frame, the source of funding, and why now as opposed to any other time. The expected impact on abutters and mitigation. The part of, that's already there about inviting them to the meeting to discuss it. Asking them to ask other people to attend who might be interested. And then, whether at the meeting or there, important to let them know what the next steps are and what they can expect the overall timeframe of the process to be. So, one thing I would suggest is if we like the template idea and we like those as a start, maybe I could draft that and send it out and people could review and update that and.
Sounds good. Well, I think it's great, all your suggestions. The time frame. I wonder, I mean, is that going to, it's speculative in a lot of ways, right? Is that going to raise concerns where there might not be? I know, you know what I mean? If we start putting timeframes, I mean, we wouldn't be notifying them if it was a sort of action now. So I don't know. I didn't know what you meant by timeframes, but everything else.
When do you plan to start this project? When do you plan to end it, kind of thing? We don't know, but we plan to start in August. We hope to get it done before winter. If not, it'll continue.
So just an overall sort of, seasonal type indication. Because I think,
Not an exact date necessarily.
yeah, because I just thought it would just raise, I don't know, might be more of a, people, based on the email, people react differently when they feel like they're being pressured versus providing input.
Well, I think it's important to have what you know. When you're.
Yeah, indicating that, the goal is to do it this fiscal year or this season or by winter, I think is fine, but I thought you were talking like a specific date.
I think it's all great, Linda. I think if we could just keep it to 1 page or half a page, so that you include the map as well.
Mhm.
Because it's all useful information.
Right.
Don't need a lot.
Have the mailing be 1 or 2 pages.
Yeah, it can't be a big.
Yeah,
And were we gonna go over the abutters process thing too tonight? Okay, because that's a little different than.
right. Well, just thoughts and comments from folks on the procedures.
And are we gonna give feedback on the specific one for Colella? Because that got sent out. I didn't know if that was part of this.
So it's Ash Street for this.
Okay, because we got the draft for Colella too. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe just send that to you directly, Sean. You wrote up the Colella one. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Not the Ash Street one.
Yeah, no, the Ash Street one though, because we do have to set up a time for that meeting.
So you're looking for feedback on the Ash Street one? Did
Well,
that go out already? though?
no,
Oh, it didn't. I thought it did.
no. So if you wanted to draft something and send that, then at our next meeting, we can set up time to get out there and meet.
Okay,
So it's
We can finalize.
like,
Yes, definitely on site on that one.
We'll have to carpool.
There's plenty of parking.
Considering.
there's a driveway there. You can park in.
So, I mean, we'll see. The neighbors obviously are concerned.
Should we,
I think,
should we have side conversations with the concerned neighbors to hear them out?
we already have,
Yeah.
Don and I have, but yes, we'll
Okay.
continue to talk to them. Elaine's talking with them.
Because it read to me like that hadn't happened. Maybe that email was sent
No,
or it was after.
it's, there's been, I mean,
There wasn't a firm date for the hearing at the time, right?
there
It
still
read
is.
like
There was
like
there was
a notice. Okay, got it.
So part of
I was at the
the,
last meeting, I
part of
apologize.
the issue is one of the things we've been trying to deal with, which is on something like a scenic road hearing, what the planning board sends out and Conservation Commission does the same thing. You get this single piece of paper with a lot of legalese and in
Not a lot of detail.
in the terms of Concom, it says nothing about what the actual project is. At least for the scenic road, it says there's gonna be a hearing at such and such a time and it's about a parking area,
Yeah,
but it's 2 sentences.
yeah.
And so very little information.
And that-
And so as an abutter, you're reading that, you'd be like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
This cover. for
And
invasion.
so, Sean and I got together with them the night before that hearing.
With one of our family.
Well, those are the ones who are concerned.
Yeah.
That's the one from 101.
Yes.
But in the same interest, though, if you get multiple houses in that general
Right,
vicinity,
right.
which, I mean, personally, I would like to hear.
Right. So 97 is strongly in favor of what we're doing. To the point where they've actually cleared out a place. The person across the street at 105 Ash Street or 102 Ash Street is also in support of increasing, enhancing access to this trail network. And through this parking, they're supportive. 101 Ash Street is biggest concern. The neighbor, I think next to him or two down at 105 Ash Street showed up, and the 27-year-old had some comments at the most recent planning board hearing. But I think it's certainly mixed. What you find with trails in general is that, and I certainly ran into it with your neighborhood, if you've got somebody like the folks at 101 Ash who are vehemently opposed to something like this, and you're at 103 Ash, and you could care less, you're not gonna get that fight.
Yeah.
And even if you think that it's a good idea to have this, you're not gonna stick your neck out because you're gonna be, at parties and mowing lawns and with those folks. So that's where one abutter can actually change the will of, the neighborhood. Because they're adamantly opposed to this thing and nobody really wants to get into that. Kurt was willing, at 97 Ash the neighbors started talking about, this is really dangerous and, you're gonna have all these people parking here. And Kurt said, they already parked there. Said hunters go back in those woods, which I'm sure they didn't like to hear because they're walking by their house to go to hunt down there. And they said, and their pickup trucks are sitting out a little in the road because once this parking area goes in, they'll be able to move off the road a little better. He said it's actually going to improve things.
So that enable lighting. That doesn't sound like a.
So do I hear, a plan for another hearing to come up on site?
Yeah,
So
for our,
set a date for that?
Or
I think it's-
so
we're going to wait
until
until,
template's done. At the next meeting, we talk about the
Okay.
template, review the
And
template,
then
and then
we'll-
agree upon the time
right.
and date when we're gonna have the hearing.
So wait until the next meeting.
Well, I noticed they go.
I'm sorry, I had my hand up, Jack.
I'm sorry.
There's a couple of things before, I'm gonna forget. So, one thing was, they had the meeting with you first, but some of the things in the letter almost seems as if they didn't.
That's how I read it as well.
I think
That's a tiny, that was a little unfortunate. And the other thing was in the abutters process, yeah, I remember both of them. In the abutters process, it talks about an alternative, trying to always have two options. I wondered if we had that, see if that would be at all helpful.
I think there is also some alternatives that we haven't talked about. So I think that
I was
that's,
wondering if I was
you know, I've got a few ideas that I could offer up.
Well, I think those are
I think
good.
it's more appropriate
On-site.
for a hearing and on-site, yeah.
Yeah, so Sean and I discussed with them, sliding things further to the north, and I think
Yeah,
Um,
there's a couple of.
So Kurt Varner opened up the area north of his driveway much wider. So that's really focused there. And then once the mulberry tree comes out, which we did pass the scenic road hearing passed. Once the mulberry tree comes out, then you'll be able to, again, slide down and pull out that driveway. And again, it moves it even further. So I actually reached out to that neighbor and said, you know, if we do it just from where the curve is, which is pretty far north, that might allay some of their fears. I've also reached out to Elaine and asked Sean actually to check. And so we can change the address, which it's in the town website right now. It's 101, near 101 Ash Street. So we can change it to 99 Ash Street. We can both get the official address. Elaine said the building inspector can give us that. But also, just you do a search right now, it takes you 99 Ash Street as the address gets you where you want to go. So that would solve one.
So was that what you described? Has that been communicated to 101? I know we're never.
I did.
I mean, I'm wondering if that
I did.
is, if that started to bring them around a little bit, or if they're still.
I think it'll be a process, and that's where we're actually moving it.
The goal is to not have any anxiety and
The,
opposition, but it's not a perfect world.
right, so the funny thing, I mean, the owner pointed to a plan that's the plan in the registry of deeds. But if you look at and she was questioning whether whether we mapped out exactly where the town property is. But if you look at the plan, the northern half of that stone wall is firmly in town land. Usually, it's kind of a questionable thing as to where the road got laid out. But in this case, you've got a plan that clearly shows that the northern half is all on town land. So, and that's where all our work is. So it's like, really has no case.
Yeah.
The other thing that shows, again, clearly on that plan is that the town land touches their driveway. So their driveway is in the center of their, landscaped area. They've got lawn going down there on both sides. If you walk down the house.
The lawn is
Yeah.
technically maybe on town land.
No, technically about it. It is
Yeah.
clearly on town land.
Literally, that.
So I raised that because, again, it comes,
Right.
hey, negotiating.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and at the end of the letter, when they raised the issue of, we may have to take legal action, it's like any lawyer worth their salt is going to take one look at that and go, you do know that the town is letting you.
Yeah.
Well, it'll also affect future conveyances of the property.
Yeah.
Well,
In my experience, I've done a while, every time there's been a dispute like this and you do a survey, it doesn't.
It doesn't go well for the
It
homeowner.
doesn't go.
It doesn't go, no, but it also, and ultimately, if anybody wants to sell their property, they have to straighten the line out.
Yeah.
Or no, once it's in the record, it will be showed up by the conveyance lawyer to find it
Yeah.
and say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Again, maybe we can continue to work with them, because
I think we can work.
our goal in the beginning of reestablishing our committee was to
Right.
work with the community and do best we can. So
The point is, abutters, she got this piece of information with no information,
yeah,
got concerned, dug their heels in, and I think it's
yeah.
time will
Yeah.
solve a lot of that. We just put in parts.
So one thing that seems to me would be really helpful is to clarify facts with them, because there's a lot of misinformation.
Yes.
Certainly on their side, maybe on our side too. So that might be a good starting point, is just to try to agree on the fact part.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is, I just wonder if we can look at how this how we got to this point. Is there anything we could have done differently so we didn't get to this point?
Absolutely. That's a good point. And, in thinking about that, which I've already done
Mhm.
for a bit, is, if we'd known this was going to be contentious in any way, I mean, essentially, the parking is already there.
Mhm.
We're putting stone dust on top of it.
Mhm.
Shouldn't, we're not really
Right.
we're not putting in a new parking lot or parking area.
Right.
It's, stone dust and what already is there, just making it a
Right.
little better. In
Well-
hindsight, you never know when it's gonna come up, knowing that it's a scenic road hearing and knowing that these people are gonna get this notice,
Mhm.
and that's gonna be their first notice. Yeah, absolutely, we would have provided our, buyer's notice.
Well, you know, I don't think you should beat yourself up. I think that this is all part of the evolution of the project. You're not going to know what they're thinking until you reach out to them and they come back to us. I think it's just all part of the conversation.
I just,
And
wonder-
obviously, there's more conversation to be had.
I just wonder when we first reach out to them, because according to their email, there's been 3 meetings where we've talked about it here. There's been site visits, there's been other things. I wonder if it's a little too late in the process.
No, I don't.
No, but the
because
3
you
meetings
did
that-
knock on doors. You
Yeah.
did knock on
Yeah,
doors.
the 3 meetings that we taught, that they were talking about is they were going back through our minutes. So
Right.
yes, we talked about it when we first got formed and we're looking at budget items. Do we keep the 5,000 for this?
Right.
And that really was not a time to be going to the neighbors yet.
Mhm.
I assumed, and my bad, that the scenic road hearing notice would have a little more information.
Okay,
And what I should have done is say, hey, John Gelsich, town planner, when you're putting this out for us, please include
Our 1 page.
our 1-pager or 2-pager to let these folks know and at least answer their questions. Start that process.
Yeah, I think that's to your point, Linda, because
Yeah.
there was feedback I was gonna I'll bring up now, that one of the abutters along Colella approached me. And they said, I'm seeing them out there killing the invasives, pardon, I don't know. Anyways, killing the invasive, what are they doing, you know? What do I do about this? And I said, just, approach Peter and, we'll answer any questions you have, but we're only kind of clearing a path to get to investigate. He's like, it seems like you're doing a lot more investigating.
it does.
I think there's a timing thing
Mhm.
about when we engage the butters and how, but to your point about Ash Street, we didn't really even until like meeting 3 of the meetings referenced in an email decide, okay, yeah, we're gonna proceed forward. And at that point, we probably should, hey, let's talk to the most immediate people and just give them the heads up. Yeah. I don't think we did anything wrong, but I'm saying if we're looking to Linda's point to kind of get even better in engagement,
Mhm.
maybe that's what we do next time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, sooner or later.
yeah.
Do you expect the select board to do anything with it?
I would expect, the committee was set up and our committee was set up in part to address some of that.
Right, that's.
And so I would hope that the select board would actually show up at, whenever we have our on-site meeting, I would hope the select board would show up at that and sort of help these folks walk through the process. So, and if they don't get satisfaction from that on-site meeting, then yeah, I could see them bumping into the next level. But the purpose of our committee is to avoid having everything go to the select board.
Yeah,
Right.
we should probably, well, I guess now there's an FYI, more than an FYI to the select board about Ash Street. So
Yeah.
I was gonna say we should let them know, but they already know.
Right, and I
Yeah.
provided my response
Yeah.
to Elaine, so she can provide that to them. Does the select board have any thoughts on this? Or any of the select board members have any thoughts on this, Amy?
Oh, I'm sorry. We can't comment because we hadn't addressed this in a meeting really. So I was just listening to see what happened,
Okay,
but I can't comment now,
got it.
Or I guess I can say, I believe Elaine replied to the abutter.
Right, I know she spoke with the abutter. So, yeah, and so I think the process will be that, Elaine will probably continue to try and work with the abutter. I've actually spoken to the abutter as well, again, tonight. And, let them know that we're gonna have these additional hearing. And, I think on site, from my look at it running through there this afternoon, I think we can find a solution that'll work for them.
Is the town and the butters invited to our onsite?
They will be, yeah.
Yeah. I encourage that. Okay.
Yep.
Did we want to go over the approval process you sent out as part of this, or is that different?
I sent it out with that in mind, just to get people's general thoughts. I mean, I think it's pretty good, but wanted,
I had some feedback on that, of course, too, because but I don't want to hog the meeting, so. If now's a good time, fine. If not, other people can start. Okay. It's time to shut up. So first of all, I think for every project, we should have a folder on our drive that has as much info in it, like the forms that went out or the emails that went out, where possible, the maps, the contracts, anything like that. So every project has a folder like that. So maybe we could start that with this parking area one and with the Colella one. And that would make Jane happy too.
Yes. But then,
Would that be like a public folder or where would that?
Yeah.
folder be?
Yeah.
It's where would it be hosted?
On Google Drive, like
Yeah.
all our other documents.
it's in Linda's last minutes that she sent out.
Okay.
You can Google, you can tap onto it, it's live, it comes right up. It's really informative. I would recommend everyone check it out.
If anybody wants me to walk them through it, I'm happy to. So I'm just gonna share my screen because I have the comments right there and be easier. Something else.
It's a great way, when she's digging that up, it's a great way to counteract things that will come up, not now, but in the future, when people say, well, I didn't know about that, you can just point them to this Google Drive and everything will show up.
Yeah.
Minutes, notices, conversations, it's a lifesaver, it really is.
Okay, so then, this one. What was this comment about? Timing impetus for the request at this time, cost source of funding. I don't know what that comment even is tied to.
If you click on it, won't bring you that part of the
I'm
document.
clicks there, but I don't see why that goes with identification of neighbors. Maybe I'm saying add that here, initial proposal. Proposer should also bring the timing, why the request now, and what the source of funding would be. We want to add that to this, we could. The next comment is down here. I think it might not be a bad idea to list all the other possible groups that might be involved besides Concom and Select Board, just as a reminder, like whether it's alt, OSPC, just so we think about who else should we be talking to, DCR, whatever. Peter, you're, George, should I make it a little bigger?
that's fine.
Okay, are you just angry?
No.
Your faces.
No, I'm squinting.
So then the next one is. Oh, this part, it says as part of the preliminary meeting, so maybe move that up into the preliminary meeting part rather than down here in the after part. So just this sentence, identify abutters and any other interested parties up here. And then this part is reaching out to those groups. And then I think it might not be a bad idea to say how they'll be contacted, that it's a physical letter. Drafted according to, you know, the template that we come up with. And that it's me, yeah. And who does that? Because I think when we did this once before, like we were asking, who's gonna send the letter? How are they gonna send it? So if it's in here, it doesn't hurt. Some of these meetings are at the site, and here it talked about at a Trails Committee meeting, so I don't know if we should expand that to say either at the Trails Committee meeting or at the site. And I wondered if you should say something that if anything changes dramatically from the meeting where the abutters are present, that we do some kind of follow-up and we let them know that. Like if the parking area changes to 3 spots, that's pretty dramatic and we should do something. If it's, you know, a minor thing, then we don't have to go back to.
I could just validate. I think a follow-up. I just like a follow-up.
Okay, even if nothing changed.
Right, just maybe.
Just a quick, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
based on
continuing
discussions on
plan.
site.
Yeah, discussion completed. Next, like to your point earlier, Linda, that you are here in the process type thing.
Okay.
All righty, well, you want to go ahead and incorporate those in and we'll
If
talk
everybody
about it next time?
thinks that's good, I will.
Thank
Does
you.
anyone have anything else?
No?
Okay, I'm feeling very,
No, you're very thoughtful, Don.
I think you said very validated.
oh,
Or agreeing with everything.
just lost time. Come back. Just-
But, yeah, no, that was the initial draft we put together by Jamie Ronka. And I thought she did.
Yeah.
Quite a nice job on it, but, you know, that was put together 3 or 4 years ago, so it can always use an update. You know, in particular from a, you know, practical point of view, saying whether it's gonna be a meeting here or whether it's a meeting on site really has been, primarily it's been on site meetings because it's just easier to make corrections
Mhm.
in the field when you're out with folks.
I know one of the challenges with on-site meetings is that someone has to take minutes to be posted, and that's where we're at.
Record it and
The, correct.
use ChatGPT.
Yep, just want your cell phone, yep.
Alrighty. So with that, budget items. So we've got the 25,000, up to 25,000 for the work on East Main Street. Still waiting to hear back from the 26.2 Foundation, who have the lease on the land. So they're the ones who would give us primary permission to put that in. I did talk with Scott Kerman, who would probably be the installer. Pretty straightforward. As I said, Chuck Dotchie's gone and looked at it. He's got wetlands experience and thinks it's a pretty easy project. He thought 25,000 was way high for that, which I think, but whatever.
Can he give us a written quote so we can submit it?
We'll get that from,
So this is the East Main you're talking about? right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
yes.
I thought I thought the edge of the road needed a little bit of help. I thought there was some issues with potentially that little sort of,
The plywood support.
yeah, the plywood.
Yeah.
Get the plywood out of the way.
So we're talking about all that. I just want to make sure. So it's
Yeah.
not just the parking area, but
Right.
it's actually
It's access.
a little bit of the structure of the road and stuff like
So
that. That's
if we
correct.
include that, I think that's why we went up to the 25K.
Yeah, okay.
because
Well, that
we
makes
just
more
don't
sense.
know
It's, yeah.
what that's going
Yeah,
to
it's all
entail.
Because there's probably gonna be some cement or some sort of road going in there.
One thing I thought about today was that, just like at Hughes, we want to, you know, have the parking area. We don't want people going by the parking area and driving cars around out back.
Right.
There's a good source of stone fairly close to there. So Scott is working right now at
I mean, like stone,
Danny.
like barrier stone. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like do not
And-
drive.
and-
next to
and
it.
Danny,
You want to ruin your vehicle type stuff. Okay.
Yeah, he's got a mountain of stone that they're trying to find a way to get rid of, so giving us 10 of them to put on a line across there would be pretty simple. I actually reached out to Dale.
And I missed last meeting. So did the gas company approve this or?
No,
They don't have to.
involved,
They don't have to.
close enough, no.
Okay.
So you mean giant stones along the road?
Yes.
No,
No, in
in the
So
field.
they don't drive
Define-
that access.
Boundary stone.
Yeah.
Or a car can't go past.
But the utility vehicle
Out into the field.
Oh, the ends that.
the utility vehicle will have to go.
Like Hughes.
You don't have any utility issues there. That's great.
No, there's an easement.
Okay, so I thought I was the only one that missed out. But there's a little utility road access to the back.
Well, it's further
We need
off,
to-
it's off, there is utilities there, but it's off closer to the neighbor. You remember that?
It actually is
On that
underneath here,
side.
but the easement does
But
not
where we're talking
restrict
about,
anything.
it's not anywhere near it.
Actually, the easement, it does go.
It's like, isn't it like a shared entrance though?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yes,
they,
but they-
So they're sort of steer people to the right and the utilities will go to the left.
I mean, it doesn't, yeah.
I have a copy of their language that
Yeah,
states that you can cross over,
right,
but you can't go parallel.
yeah, they don't, yeah, and they don't
You
want you,
can't-
they wouldn't want you
You
putting.
can't travel on top of it, but you can cross over it.
Yeah.
Got it.
I mean, these pipes are like 15 feet buried in.
Right.
I just think this is a great,
Yeah,
And it's great for this committee and it's great to get it done. It's a real,
I think it's necessary that we get
Yeah.
something up there.
and it's so visible. It's so visible.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great step forward.
Having said this, when do we reach out to those abutters? Just given the previous conversation.
I think the sooner the better. I mean, they're my neighbor.
Have we,
That's right.
we didn't officially vote to proceed with it, right? After we
So we have to get the approval from the 26.2 foundation.
Correct.
And so
Then
then
contingent on that.
need a point to move forward, yeah.
Maybe we just have to let people know, just because we've done work up till now, doesn't mean it's a done deal. Maybe that's sort of the thing they feel is that.
You're right. It's,
Then they think like, oh, they have no right to give input or.
no, I think it's an initial
Investigation.
investigation into this project that we are going to reach out to the property owners, the abutters,
Mhm.
who is going to do up the notice to the abutters for this project. Even
How
though,
many others out there?
there's one.
Well, it's just. But isn't it technically?
Well, I might be one, but there's.
Well, yes. We spent a lot of time thinking about who an abutter was. When we first set up the procedures, and the idea is to have it be anyone who might.
Might have some
bothered by it.
You're right.
Okay, so certainly that would be
Having
right
said
there.
that, there's probably at least a half a dozen in that little
Yeah.
neighborhood that would.
I think it's as far up, you would be
Yeah,
kind of
that's
the
it.
far end,
Yeah,
the people next to you, that house right there, and then the next one
right,
up.
because
But no, in the context of wetlands, an abutter is someone who actually abuts.
Well, wetland is very defined.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But we're doing.
500 feet or
I think you have to be a little careful when you start talking
Yeah.
about anybody who might be upset by it.
well,
That's a much larger constellation, whereas
It's
if you
true.
stick with a clear definition of a butter, it's someone who abuts the property.
Right.
and so we.
That's the reason you don't want to confuse.
That's so absurd.
Correct. And to Peter's thing, every project is going to be individual and customized.
Right, the problem you get into is, for example, having done work and looking forward to doing more work on school property. And a butter at 91 Hayden Row to the school property is, 300 people.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's 300 people who are within 100 feet of that property,
Yeah.
even though they're nowhere near the actual project.
Yeah.
So that's what we were trying to avoid with, yes, to your point, it really is the abutters, but going a little extra might.
Courtesy notification as opposed to a butter, but I think one of them's a good point. We should try to adhere to the definition, but we could still, to James' point, customize and say, you're not a direct abutter. However, we're giving you this notice.
Exactly.
You might be.
I'm with it.
Linda?
So you need to get 26.2 approval and we're running out of time. Do we know, because we have to get a contract for this in place?
They know,
They know we're in a hurry.
yes.
Okay.
So
And
I
would,
was going to reach out before I came over here and forgot. So
would,
How do they do
would
that?
it be fair to say that, like,
they have to go through their whole foundation.
would it be fair to say it would not be inappropriate to let some of these, I mean, I'm happy to let some of the people in the neighborhood know. So that would be a fair assumption to say that this is what I'm thinking about.
Again, I run through, if I saw that the neighborhood was
It's not
right there, I
officially-
would stop by and say, hey, here's what we're looking at.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's absolutely,
Would it be okay if I?
Yes.
Doing that? Okay.
yes. Chuck,
Yeah, just regarding the butter notification issue. I think it's for most of the trails projects, particularly if they're on larger parcels, to define notification for all direct abutters to the parcel can get you into some crazy numbers. Right now, for the wetlands filing for the Chamberlain Loop Road connection, we will have, I think it's 104 abutters to notice, most of whom are nowhere close to the trail.
Yeah.
My suggestion is that you go with some footage distance from the work area rather than defining based on property boundaries.
Right.
Makes sense.
Can you just explain that? Because I don't quite get it. Can you give an example of what footage distance from the work area means versus?
Well, for example, with East Main Street,
500 feet.
500 feet from East Main Street, even though that's being on the parcel that's owned or leased by 26.2, that parcel is 25 acres. So people who are within a certain distance of that may include people all the way up Wilson, way away from the project. It gets, you get
It's like within 300 or 500 feet of the parking area.
God,
Right,
not of
but
the
certain-
whole
yeah.
property.
I'm confused. The notification of abutters, is that a regulatory requirement? We're just-
No,
No.
Okay.
that's the benefit we have.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
okay, so we're in the context of wetlands, it's a regulatory.
Absolutely. There's a difference, and we wanted to stay away from
What we're really talking about is not abutters notification, but public notice.
Yes.
Might be a better way to frame it.
I'm with Jack.
Think about it.
I like it.
Right, and I just think, you know, an abutters notice, in my experience, is a fairly legal thing you have to do. And right now, we're doing a public notification of a project we're doing. I think we should frame it that way.
Okay.
And then you can be flexible and.
Not to mention the fact that it sends the message, what we're trying to do is we're trying to advocate awareness and become more transparent. But if butters notices, it's a legal.
Requirements.
It's a good,
Right.
So are we gonna do that? I like that.
Yes.
Yes,
So in our process and our template and all.
be project notifications.
Some left to do butters.
I'm sorry, you said public.
Some I could combine.
Before I thought you said public notification.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay, not project.
Yes.
Of a project.
Oh,
Notification of a project.
Yes. Yes.
got it. Okay,
Alrighty, so speaking about these, we can finish up talking about East Main Street because actually we've already done East Main Street, but you know, I think it's good to talk about that. We've already put money aside for it. Other projects that have come up.
Do we want to look at this? Do you want? me
that
to-
was great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I think that's helpful.
I don't know what's.
No, this is not what we want to talk
Oh.
about. What you want to, we're, that's
We
item.
do, but not right now. I
Not
think.
exactly.
I didn't know if you were
That's item
transition.
four.
I thought you were transitioning.
No, saying, so we have, so the situation we're in, as you recall, and you weren't here, was we have roughly 60K that's got to be committed by June 30th. That's from the combining of the two trails committees who had a budget, each had a budget.
I thought that was what.
No, it's not. This is CPA
Yeah,
primarily.
primarily she did.
Yeah, so we're talking about budget. This is a one-time
That's right, okay.
$60,000 that's sitting out there that we can use.
Got it.
25K, we've already taken off the top on that.
Got it.
5K for bridge.
So the question then
Oh,
becomes,
see, I thought it was coming from.
25K for East Main Street.
Hmm?
25K for East Main
Correct.
Street.
25K for East Main Street, exactly. So
There was something.
other projects. Exactly. So the question is, do we want to, what other projects do we want to do for that 60K? Berry Acres is one that Chuck is putting together an estimate for of 5,000, it's
Only 5,000.
$4,500, $5,000. Yeah, and that's for a boardwalk to go across from the little parking area on West Main Street into the Berry Acres land. It would allow that area to be much more accessible. So
Which is
I make a
important.
motion, we spend it on the Berry Acres project.
$5,000, 1 million. Second?
A second.
We're confident that it's 5,000 sufficient.
Well, for that one bridge.
For that.
Just go ahead, press up,
Yes, yes.
One bridge.
Motion on the table. Seconded. Any further discussion?
Well, there is another entrance if you just go down a little way.
Correct. Well, we want that's where the parking is.
Okay.
So this one makes sense.
There's-
Chuck?
Just to say there, that estimate includes actually 5 different bridges and boardwalks to make that whole area accessible with the beaver flooding. The folks from the apartments now do have a loop that that they can avoid the worst beaver flooding, but but to improve that would still be to mean they could do it any season, would still be a few thousand. The bulk of this cost is for what is over 100 feet of flooded area in the old main access road. And that it brings folks out to West Main, closer to the Lumber Street intersection.
The actual parking area that's in there.
Yeah, and to the there's actually a curb cut there.
Right.
But yeah.
Figuring out where it is.
No, I was just showing, it was his budget.
I was just gonna say, so, I see that it's listed as 4578 and we're approving up to 5,000. I just wondered if we wanted to make that a little higher in case things come up. I know it's a pretty good.
That's not a bad idea.
I think 10 is.
I thought Chuck recommended 5.
Recommended
But I'm saying that only gives us a $500 buffer. I just wonder if we want to raise it to 55 or 6. Just because I don't get
It's
the,
always not a bad idea.
Yes, see the bridges and boardwalks that you have in here.
See, that was listed as a CPA.
Those are, okay, so we're talking 2 different things.
oh,
Got it. 4,500
Oh.
here is CPA funds that
Oh.
we have, and that could be used for some of the other bridges that need work in there.
Okay, so these are 2 dish.
Right, so this is $5,000 additional. So got a motion, got a second, any further discussion on the 5,000 for this additional boardwalk? One comment that I'll make on this, just for folks to be aware, is this is an area that we're looking at some point, and to me, it's a reasonably high priority to put a shared use path going from Chamberlain Extension all the way down to West Main. I think that has huge potential for use and connectivity. What we're talking about tonight is a 32-inch wide bridge that would not fit with that. So having said that, this could certainly be moved. We could add on to the side of this one. We're certainly,
how do you add to the side of a bridge?
you could, it would be a bit of a jury rig. Chuck?
We're also dealing with the issue of land ownership, to get from Chamberlain to West Main, we would currently have to cross NSTAR land. There is a route which Peter and I mapped out, staying on town land, that comes out to West Main. Just a little east of the current easterly entrance to the Berry Acres properties. But there are land ownership issues to be dealt with, as well as the practicality of building a wide shared use path. I think, at least in my sense, is that if we want a shared use path, we either go straight westerly to the backside of the apartment complex,
Right.
or out in the more easterly portion of the town Berry Acres land, out to West Main. To do the lower section where the beaver flooding is, could really be problematic.
So you're suggesting this bridge would remain, and then the wider path would be a
Somewhere
a
else.
different branch of it. Yeah, going down the park.
I'm raising it because certainly there's some probability that this actually would be
But having
the
both is not.
location. But I wanted to at least, I didn't want it coming up as a surprise.
So for the
down the road.
purpose of tonight's
Yeah.
discussion, what I'm hearing is that we should consider an extension of the monies to include the wider bridges.
It's also gonna be a different location.
So
Well, I know that shared use
So the
path, but
shared
what
use-
we're talking about tonight is the cost for the bridges. And
Right.
if you're suggesting that the 32 inches currently that Chuck is proposing for a shared use path would be to be
Yeah.
wider.
So
If
Jay,
we
I
wanted
think
to
you
be
missed-
wider,
So that was said, but then Chuck said, having said that, the shared use path shouldn't be this one that uses the bridges
It's
at all.
likely to go in a
There's
different
two
place.
better routes because this is too much flood.
So there's two options. One is we keep the shared use path on town land, which avoids these bridges, and the bridges therefore have their value.
It doesn't go stay.
Or much longer process, we buy the Eversource land over time or get permission to use the Eversource land. That's a 5 years out minimum type issue. So I think the bridges have value right now. Linda?
So I can totally agree. However, when are we thinking we might do this other shared use path? And should we be considering that for this budget too, or is that crazy?
No, we're not considering that for this.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and that's other priorities. That's a mass trails type funding project.
Okay,
I've actually started putting together a priority or a list of trails that
okay.
I think are priorities that I can send out for everyone else to add their priorities in.
Okay, so one other question is, could any,
This discussion has gone beyond the.
Yeah, I know.
oh,
Okay,
So
so
still have the motion.
Yeah.
second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
But opposed, keep channeling my inner Lyndon Johnson.
Yes.
All right.
can I just ask a question about that other path? Is there any point in putting any money aside for a study of that as part of this budget?
No, no, at this point, it's too preliminary.
I think for one, we're gonna have to contact all the people in those apartments at some point.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to talk about, measure rate.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So we still have 30K of the
Next.
initial budget
Yeah.
unallocated. And I voted
Correct. So one other potential project is, and I understand that neighbors have been interested in this in the Woodville area. But there's a bridge connecting, it's on the Fruit Street, it's on town property, but it allows you to connect through from behind the Woodville Fire Station to Fruit Street and obviously vice versa.
Because
that is a big
This-
problem.
It goes down to the Fruit Street property. Yeah,
Yes.
it used to be able to ride, I drive my bike through there, but
Yeah.
a bridge would be, yeah.
Well, one of the bridges that was there is in rough shape, and it rotted out, needs to be replaced.
Siobhan,
It's on town land.
okay.
So,
The whole thing.
No.
So the bridge replaced the bridges.
do we have the replacement? So we have an estimate of $2,030 from Chuck for that work.
Is that the small one or the really wide one?
It's whatever one is, it's the one closest to, it's not the real big one. That's not
Okay.
close to, Wood Street.
Right.
The one close to.
Okay.
What about that big one? Doesn't that need replacing?
That's actually reasonable shape.
Yeah.
Chuck?
Oh,
Yeah, to answer Dave's question, the bridge that I think, you broke?
I've heard it crack under my feet.
That's the bridge in question, and we need a little over 100 linear feet total. Most of it would be 32-inch wide boardwalk, and then when we get to the bridge, we would widen out, taking advantage of footings that are already there to just over 5 foot width, sort of as a viewing platform of the wetlands. And then narrowed down to 32-inch on the southern side. So it would be a combination of boardwalk and a wider bridge.
What's the elevation? I haven't done there. Like, is it need a railing or anything or?
No.
No,
So that's how you get to the 2,000, because it's still based on 100 linear feet. I know there's footings only. 1,000, okay. 100 feet.
Do we-
On the bridge there, 2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will also.
Okay.
He's the pro.
And so what was the amount? 2,000?
2030. So I would suggest we round it up to 2,500.
I'll make a
At least, yes.
2,500.
Second.
Second here.
Okay, discussion, hearing none.
I'm sorry.
I heard none, Ken.
Who was the first? You?
He was voting.
Okay.
I'm glad, scorekeeper.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
It just so-
Okay, anything else?
We still have a lot of money.
But we don't, I don't want to be in a position where, if we don't, yeah, let's not be.
We have 27. These are valid projects.
They are.
that We have good estimates on. We know from contact they need it, so.
Yes.
And this is just to confirm, right? This is a commitment that we're locking in the funds for based on votes that are going to be done next fiscal year based.
No, this is for this.
Do you think we get this bridge in the next month?
The contract for.
The contract, so,
We have to get
so
the
in
paperwork.
here, this is,
I'm still saying locking it in. Yeah,
is gonna be showing up,
yeah.
with regard to the Berry Acres one, the 4x6s, which are the stringers, they'll be showing up at Berry Acres, and then the rest of it's gonna be going to,
But we'll get it shipped and purchased this year, but maybe it
Correct.
goes into next year.
yes, over the next, over the next while. Yes, Linda?
You have other items that arise, including possibly signs. Did you want to put it for a budget or no?
Yeah, if anyone has estimates, then, I mean, we have to have it kind of locked up.
Yeah, we have to have
You
a.
know.
Do we have a contract for the lawn mowing at Hughes?
Yeah, I was wondering that one too.
Yes,
Is that part of the 60K?
that is being done through the DPW.
Those on top.
How about other areas that could use lawn mowing?
Again, the DPW, we worked with the DPW to try and get that stuff kind of organized and set up.
So like Methodist or. Yeah, I mean,
Does the money come from DPW or from us?
It's in there.
Okay, but we don't need it to be part of this.
Correct, we don't need to be part of this.
Yeah, I get that we want hard estimates for signs, but with the historical commission, we do have estimates. But we put aside money at the beginning of the year for signage, and then we basically draw down.
And we've got our 25K budget, so I would.
That's kind of what
That's
where I'm going. It's like, why don't we just allocate, because we know we want to do signs, they're about $1,000-ish at the most, depending on the scope of the sign, right? It could be a lot less.
Right.
But if we say, I think we said last time 5-ish signs, and just say that.
So, right, yes, and that didn't include.
Yeah, if we had,
If you want, we can try to get that by the next meeting so we can vote on it at. the
I would like to get in progress on a sign or two.
well, the issue is, our requirements are to go to the design review board.
Yep, but we don't have to do that before we get a contract, right? Just like these other
Yeah.
things. We're not going to Concom first. We're putting the money aside, and then if Concom says no, if design review board says you have to redo it, then we do, but
We
we
can
could,
get a quote.
But, so for example, the bridges are all going to go in. I mean, it's just a level of detail with Concom, but we've
Mhm.
done that process, so the money is set. For signs, if design review board says, I don't like your color, I want them bigger, I want them smaller,
right, but we can do
We
that
can't.
too.
we can't reach out to a sign maker and
Okay.
say, hey, could you give us a quote for a sign that may be bigger, maybe smaller, maybe, maybe a different material?
The Hughes sign,
We don't have the-
we have a prototype for the Hughes sign, and it's got a lot of text on it, for the pictures, but.
What cute.
Yeah, but these are.
It's the roadside.
Yeah, you know, I love simple.
That's a totally different.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's a lot less money. is my point. It's not a lot of money that we need for 5 signs.
No, but and having said that, because we don't have them finalized.
Yeah.
And can't get a contract in place that he's gonna do X for
Has to be by June 30th.
just by June 30th. Let's just roll that over. We've got our budget of 25K. You know, which historically we've never used more than half of that. So I think we're fine. Okay.
And do we get, I don't want to transition prematurely to the CPA, but have that as a separate bucket.
Okay. We're done with this? Now we
I wasn't intentionally transitioning, I was clarifying.
go for the transition. We're at 8:20. Go for the transition.
I have a question. The 25K budget that you told a couple meetings ago, you said that you've gotten the verbal, that's what we're going to get next year.
Yeah.
Correct? That's separate from the CPA.
Correct.
Okay.
And
So
it's
the CPA
Yes.
obviously has
6.5 years first.
specific purposes, but the 25K
Is up to us.
is up to us. Okay.
Okay.
All right, just one.
Can you ask the question, is CPA the one who is gonna fund the center school building?
Yes.
So a lot of CPA money for
It's
other
gonna
projects
swallow
will
it up.
go away.
Say that.
Right.
Correct.
Okay,
So if we had a large land purchase we wanted to do, or open space wanted to do in conjunction with us, that would be hard to get those funds.
okay.
But they have, when he visited, he did ask us to be more frugal and give back what we could.
Okay,
So Scott did a nice job of putting together.
On my eyes on, so I can't see that. So we're going to pages.
is that this?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought the budget we were talking about was this. I didn't know we were talking about this.
No, we're,
It's 60,000.
Right.
I was confused too.
so this is,
So I want to get uncomfortable.
yeah, so this is on to item 4, approval and sign off of invoice work, which I've got one invoice.
Oh,
And then discussion of procedures for budgeting. So this, sorry about that. I should have had the word budget somewhere in the agenda item, but that's the idea for the procedures.
Okay.
Sean already raised one point, which is the 25K, our regular budget needs to be included in this. But
Absolutely.
I thought it was, certainly a nice first
It's a
step.
framework. You know, I put down what I knew and I obviously missed the other point on the 60K. I thought it was part
I
of,
think it's very.
because it just happened to be, a lot of money here. So I thought the 60 was sort of folded across, but I'll get that. I'll add the budget and I'll label it as such that there's different buckets. Obviously, we can't have some stuff.
To clarify, I thought a few meetings ago, we talked about the budget for this year being 30, not 25.
oh, really?
It may be.
Okay.
I got you forgetting, so whatever you may be right.
Should I verify that?
I think we can very well, I think as an action item coming out
I
here.
remember 30 as well. That,
So-
It should be a lady.
Okay.
Next year, not.
Yeah.
Previous.
Well, I think, just to clarify, so it's either 25 or 30 that we have for fiscal year 26.
26, 27, I think is.
Well, 26,
Yeah.
26, that's what, right, ending 26, right? Okay.
It's not that then.
Look it up, it should be in there.
That's
here. I think it's like 26.
It's, I think towards the back.
All right, okay, so our budget, okay. For fiscal year 26,
Yes.
we have.
Maybe.
For fiscal,
Let Sean talk.
for fiscal year 26, we either have 25 or 30 grand. Scott is taking the action to verify with Elaine whether it's 25 or 30.
Right.
For fiscal year 25, we had $60,000, which we discussed and voted that we're going to allocate 25,000 for East Main parking, 5,000 for the Berry Acres bridges, and 2,500 for the Woodville Bridge. Okay? Now we're talking about the CPA funds,
Correct.
which I got to get up my phone again because I can't read that.
I'm going to excuse myself. Thanks for all your great work here.
Sure.
Very exciting.
Welcome to town.
Thank you for coming.
Stop by and hang out. You will see me again.
Maybe even on the site.
Right.
There you go.
I got a couple more weeks and.
With that shoulders there, we're gonna look for you to hack some.
Even,
Good luck, Dan.
nice meeting you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps.
And yeah, again, assistant.
Yeah, I'm I get so many emails.
Move up closely.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It just, and even on the screen, because you gotta go to the far right, because that's.
Yeah.
Well, I can read it too.
This is general government. Here's.
You can hide some of the columns if that helps.
Which one?
I mean, I don't know. Most of them are like important in my view, but I was gonna do like a balance sheet in your honor, but I didn't. But
It's still my.
so basically, CPC transferred to Trails Committee
Oh,
document
yeah,
was a
right,
bunch of
right.
amounts that total about 209,000,
Correct.
right? And then what we've used since then, all I had record of was the connector trail. There could be more, but I need some of the validate. I can go to finance.
It's like three grand.
Yeah, 3,860.
And as a note on that, we did, we got approval, i.e. we got a revised version back from Beals and Thomas. Chuck's looked at it and said it looks good, so we're sending a note off to Beals and Thomas to finalize it, and so then we're on the next steps of Concom. And obviously,
And will that happen before the end of June, or does this not matter for CPA?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, good. CPA is on kind of open-ended. Interesting.
well, until 2026.
Yeah.
Okay. Even for the 2021 money?
Yes, well, yeah.
But you have to reapply every year.
Yeah.
That's what Peter does, because before.
Yep, got it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good until, okay. Yeah, so then, if that's all we've used so far, we have about 205,000 of unused. And I mistakenly put the 457813 as Berry Acres boardwalks, but that's.
It is different Berry Acres.
So that 4578 was just coincidentally close to Chuck's 5,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right, and then that was scary.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, and then, the middle school cross country amount we voted on, we got that.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't know, I had returned to CPC for the permanent western route.
Right.
Yep.
We voted that.
And then the trailhead parking for Ash is still coming from CPA. Okay, so I think, and then the preliminary engineering, but the East Main parking item is 25K here. I should take this off of the CPA.
Right, take.
Correct.
But the preliminary 10K is CPA.
The,
The 10K preliminary engineering on segment one, I thought we had voted.
no, that's 48K.
Yeah, that's 48K, and that's how.
Is that, oh yeah,
That's
that's,
CPA money.
but I thought the first 10K we voted on, but not the remaining 38.
It says on your
Did we vote on the full 48?
3,000.
It was already voted, I mean, that's there.
Yeah.
We have to use it or we're gonna lose it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but did we vote to proceed with that?
Yes.
That's my question.
We voted to keep the money.
Yeah.
They voted, have not voted as far as who
Okay.
we're hiring to spend that, to
Yeah,
spend that.
that's what those are the use of funds notes I want to, when we make a vote and we determine to use it, I wanted to make note of that. That's what, so I crossed out.
Up the date of the minutes.
Got it.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm sorry, though, you say we plan to use 35, not the full 48. Is that accurate?
No,
No, I don't think
no, I'm
so.
crossing out the 35,000, Linda. I'll edit it and send it back to the group or you or Peter. I'm eliminating the note underneath that same row, and then the amount remaining stays at 48,400.
Right, so what we will likely do with that, because under state procurement laws, we can go out to engineering, sole source, or basically any amount.
Sure.
I would suggest we use somebody local like Beals and Thomas to do that work. We need to figure out in this committee what we want them to do. Those trails out there all the way down to Houghton State Park aren't mapped. They should be. And just what's, and there's actually language in that. So we want mapping, topography,
Yeah, geography.
and then, but what we talked about a little bit on the sidewalk, and we should clarify in, not this meeting, but another meeting,
It's the next meeting.
is the extent of what else we want them to do with the mapping. So we know there's lots of old farm roads that would be great for trail use. That needs to be mapped. That to be mapped, I think, under this, because we're looking at options.
Yep.
Well, so to my, the next thing I wanted to do, I have a question, was I was going to request a debrief from our trail segment one
Mm.
walk so that we can talk about the things that you are
Mhm.
talking about. We have to figure out where we want to go.
Right.
We have to have a meeting with property owners to find out if they will allow us to go where we would like to go. Because
Correct.
in the past, they told us where we could go or could not go. And we have to find out now that it's built up, it could be that there's some leeway there, some flexibility. And maybe they might decide to give us a little leeway. I don't know.
Do we need to do that before we do this?
Yeah, because we can't ask the engineers to do any work if the property owner is not going to allow us to go there.
Can I like your,
In an additional way.
No.
can I suggest that we put that on our next?
Agenda.
Yeah.
And have more
Like,
detail.
the bulk of the agenda. I think it's a lot to talk about. Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna push off priorities again. then. We're
Right.
gonna push up priorities. again.
Well, I also.
It's a priority.
It is.
But also, to your point, no, we are gonna push off what I just talked about with, which is trail priorities. This is clearly
Yeah,
probably number one on the.
I think so, because
our first meeting.
have money, it's pretty.
It's a great area.
People want to see it happen.
Sounds good.
Do you
And
want
given
me
the
to
parking-
reach out to Roy and at least see, put out some feelers and see if he's open to a meeting? About, I'm sorry, Roy McDowell, he's the property owner of Legacy Farms.
So, the southern part.
No,
Oh, I mean, well, from where our walk, it was the southern part of our walk.
Can we continue on the budget and
Yeah.
defer this?
Yeah.
To have this as the first agenda item in the next meeting?
Yes.
Well, I don't have any other questions.
I have tons.
What's that? You got
I
questions?
have no idea what this budget's telling me, honestly.
Because you're an accountant and I'm not.
Well,
No, in all seriousness. So the idea was.
so we started with 2.
Correct.
Right, what do we gotta commit to before the end of next month?
We don't.
This month.
We have to use it. We have until the end of.
Nothing in this 209 is in that commit by the end of the month.
So our only commit was to CPC, and I thought we discussed that we had to have some commitment so that we could move forward with them.
That was for the budget.
No,
No, we
This is
signed,
the discussion we had 3
Yeah.
meetings ago.
right, and that was to say
Yes or no?
yes or no.
Okay.
So that was the commit. I've signed the paperwork
Yes,
that comes out, so we're good.
and so that ties to the 160.
That ties,
To the 2-1, yeah.
Well, the math was a little off for 48.4. I had to edit it.
All right, so
The 48.4 carries across to the right. So it ends up being 205, 379.
okay, so 205, 379 from CPC.
no, there really is. So for example, preliminary engineering western route, the 40,000 is
Oh,
out.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm
that,
sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. No, yeah, my bad. So Gary, amount Trails Committee plans to use and then the amount remaining. So it's 156 across to 581 plus 48.4 is the amount remaining. So it's 120.
This needs work. This is the
Yeah.
first pass
Yeah.
to get our thinking about
The
it.
48.4.
Probably can carry on this without sending to accountant first, because
Yeah.
it's gonna
The 40
come to
The
question.
48.4 slides all the way to the amount remaining. And so the 156, 581 plus 48.4 is the amount remaining. And it's not a return to CPC. Because that's the 2026 that I wasn't aware of. So we have.
So what we, okay, so for our purposes,
for things like preliminary engineering western route, while that was a discussion point for us, should not be on this slide. It should just be gone. And
So the 209, we take out the 40.
yeah,
I'll circle what we remove, okay?
So that gives us 170.
and
You know, I could.
And I have, I have to check on the bridges and boardwalk, because as I recall, that was for specific things, and I think we voted to not keep that one.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought we said there was stuff that we just said, no, we're
right, and I
done.
think bridges and boardwalks
Was it no?
one,
Was it?
was no.
Pine Street, I thought we said was done as well.
Pond Street was definitely done. Is that on there?
$573 is done. Finished it?
Oh,
That was.
Yes, that's, no, yeah, that should be
So
off.
it's done. So that's used, 573.94.
They should just come off, because
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
What should be left then?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at.
the first two should be left.
To do.
So here's, the ones that are circled.
Well,
Middle school cross-country course stays on. Preliminary, the trailhead parking Ash Street stays on, and preliminary engineering segment 1 stays on.
Okay.
So this final column should include that 3645 for the middle school, right?
So you can cross off,
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'll do, I got it, guys.
well, you got,
Okay.
yeah, but
I'm sure of it.
Can you just walk down this
Yeah,
column? Trail
Third-
committee
third one
columns
down.
For each one.
third one down, bridges or walk.
Start on column left. So they're just gonna tell you on the left-hand column what is going to now be excluded. How's that?
No, because that's transferred to Trails Committee. What do we plan to use? That's the one we care about.
Oh, what are we planning to use?
Yeah.
Go the other way.
So
So we're gonna use the remainder of the, we're gonna use the remainder of the 47,047, which is about 43,181. Right? That's not available.
I'm sorry,
So,
Are you on-
Linda, if you're gonna go through this, just take out the things that need to be taken
Well,
out.
I'll edit it, but
So bridges are added.
but it's easy for us to see because I have no idea what you're talking about right now. Because you're working
Right, so
on a
just,
piece of paper.
yeah, so,
Swap down
all right,
this.
so the bridges and boardwalk out is gone. Bridges and boardwalk is gone.
This-
The whole row.
Third row.
Okay.
Third out the whole, everything gone. That whole row.
Okay, I'm just gonna.
Just-
okay,
just-
yep.
Kill,
just put it as
Just kill it.
zero. There's not. Zero it out.
kill that column.
Row.
Bro,
Good point.
Try and.
So row 3 of 457813 goes away.
Okay. Trailhead parking Pond Street, that whole row goes away.
Okay,
Delete 57394. You got that?
hold on. I have to go. Well, I'm sorry, because
That's,
Just press delete.
I don't know, will that work?
yeah, it
Yeah.
should.
You can just put a 0 in that column.
It doesn't. I'd rather put the 0 than delete
Yeah,
it.
put a 0.
Just put a 0 here, and then it carries through.
Sure.
Put it here, okay,
And then the preliminary engineering of Western Route of 40,000 goes to 0.
okay. Okay,
So did we get these funds for these specific projects and then
Yes.
we're deciding not to do those projects?
finish.
Already decided not to do it.
Well, one was finished and the other two are stopped.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the trailhead parking on Pond Street was finished, we had money left. And we're not using it, and the engineering Western route, we decided not to do,
Correct.
right, okay.
So we have 164K.
164. Good.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so I think, Scott, I mean, would help me is tracking the 164.
Yep.
Right, as designated from the CPC.
Yep.
And then we have 32.5
Yep.
from fiscal year 25 budget.
That we are spending, correct?
Well, we gotta have
Yep.
contracts before the
Yep.
end of this month.
Correct.
And then we have a budget of somewhere between 25 and 30K
Which
for fiscal year 26.
Which I will confirm with Elaine.
So that plus 106, Linda?
I'm sorry, what's 106?
Is that enough? I guess it,
It's 164,093.5, is that what you mean?
yes. So that's our budget.
Somewhere between, yeah. 196.45 plus 25 or 30K. Yep, then I'll confirm the exact number.
And you're gonna add those into this spreadsheet?
I'm going to reproduce this
Got it.
to clean up and
And
simplify.
include those things too?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
So it's either
it
gonna
was more of a reconciliation exercise for me. Now that I know the starting number, we'll start there.
mhm,
We won't have the rows that don't matter anymore. But we need to notify CPC that we're not going to spend the.
Already did.
You already did.
And these connector trails, the first two rows, are they any specific connector trails or just any?
That's the Chamberlain, Loop Road to Chamberlain connector trail.
Is that both the same?
Yes.
I'll label it as such.
And so
It's 2 years budgets, but yeah.
I was wondering what it'll cost. Okay. Loop Road to Chamberlain, got it.
When we run out of the 47 or what's now 44K, we start chewing on the 60K.
Sounds good, man. Should start going faster.
Mhm. Yep.
So you said you had an invoice.
I I do. So the procedure for invoices is, so this one, typically, or on the all other trails committee, the committee authorized me to spend up to $500 kind of without asking for permission, and then sort of asked for forgiveness, not for permission. So up to 500. I essentially followed that procedure. So what we got was the dog waste depot, the dog waste bags that go on the baskets that Chuck puts at various trailheads. That the budget was, or the amounts was $319.98. What the town wants is that form filled out with 3 signatures of committee members. So I would entertain a motion to spend $319.98 on dog waste bags.
So move.
Second.
No discussion necessary.
It's all hopes, maybe.
Oh, I did it, I did it. It would be waste. It'd be a waste. Wow.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed,
That'd be fine.
and I'll pass this around for you guys.
And that comes out of the 25K.
Could we
It comes out of 60,
Out of the remaining,
because of the 30 remaining
of the remaining for this revenue, yeah.
this year,
So
because we're not June 30 yet.
through the chair, could we
Yes.
going forward, put a line item in the budget, Scott? That for miscellaneous items for the chair to spend, so we can orient this stuff again, for up to like $400 or something for things like poop bags or whatever. And then to be approved later.
Yeah, $500.
$500. What? We're.
Well, I'm looking for a
Miscellaneous.
motion,
Yeah.
just like we had, Chuck, I'm looking for a motion to allow the chair to spend up to $500
For miscellaneous items
miscellaneous items that
that pop up.
pop up, exactly.
And
Second.
and then you just bring them here and tell. us
And
what-
right,
Yeah,
right,
they
and then
all-
we notice the minutes and then it goes with Scott.
Right. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Good.
The historical commission also, if the committee votes on spending money, it is given the treasurer the ability to actually submit and sign the invoice if it's already been voted on. So I can include the minutes
Yeah.
on the vote I signed, so we don't have to get the 3 on like $5,000 or $50,000. So it's up to you guys.
It's a streamline.
I didn't follow.
If the committee votes to authorize an invoice or payment for something as a committee, we don't have to submit the form and come here and do it again and get the 3 signatures. Peter or I can actually sign on behalf of the committee if we voted for what we already
Okay.
voted on.
Are you sure?
That's what I do there still.
Yeah. We do.
I mean, it's convenience. I don't care.
Well, that's-
Either way, I'm just letting you guys know that that's a
Great, but
process.
didn't I hear there was a process change this year?
Well, there is, but the
There's 2
committee
processes.
can,
Still can't.
the committee can vote to use this other process.
You basically
So planning board
authorize
does the
me
same.
to sign, and then I just attach the approval, just evidence they didn't even require it, but I attach it for my own and auditability
With a copy of the minutes.
with a copy of the minutes to the invoice,
You don't have to do
and
that.
then it gets,
Whatever. Right, because ultimately in submitting this, I'm going to have to get minutes from this meeting, you approve minutes.
it's just, it eliminates overhead. I don't care honestly, but I just offer that.
Well, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so how do we phrase this then, Scott?
First invoice.
What's that?
No, we can just suggest that, we make a motion to allow the treasurer to sign.
To be the signatory on behalf of the committee, if we have voted
Yeah.
To authorize use of the
Approve
funds.
minutes of the use
Upon
of funds.
council.
upon a vote, approval, to authorize use of the funds, the treasurer has the ability to submit and sign an invoice and submit it to other town finance to pay, basically.
Okay, that becomes part of our procedure
Correct.
based on the vote.
Right.
I'll move that then.
No, but make sure to let us.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, is the word invoice? What is?
Approved an expense to be paid.
Yes.
Yeah.
we don't have to say call it an invoice because you're not bringing
Okay.
invoice to here, but it could be for a statement of work or.
So for example, when I get a Beals and Thomas
Correct.
invoice that we already agreed on the money. That, yeah.
It could be installments, so I don't have to keep bringing the installment.
Right, and I don't have to wait,
No,
we don't have to wait a month for the invoice to get
Right.
finalized,
Right, exactly. I can do it,
you know,
I mean, I.
for the minutes,
Obviously,
the minutes to
share,
get.
everybody be aware of it happening, but
Okay.
reauthorized by the committee.
Sign off on the use of funds if the committee already approved the use of funds and it's recorded.
It's not for the use, it's actually for the disbursement or payment.
Okay, so Jane,
Expenses that are already.
the treasurer can sign off on the payment of funds, the distribution of funds. This is what I'm looking for, the word.
Distribution
distribution.
Okay,
/ payment and
of funds if the committee already approved it and it's in the minutes.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay,
It just simplifies it.
Right, that way we can give them that
So,
blanket and then they.
especially now with the
Yeah, between meetings.
connector trails coming in, we might get, 4 different invoices.
correct.
Mhm.
And you don't have to wait for a meeting. You might get 4 or 5 between meetings and
Yeah.
it just.
So, yeah, for those, I treated them as, I'm the clerk of work, so the clerk of work just signed off on it.
Yeah. Well, you can still.
They took them. Yeah.
But the new
No,
process does require it, so I'll have to take the minutes from this meeting that we voted on that. I'll bring it to finance, they'll put it into their file, then
Yep.
they'll know.
okay, so
I
Jane,
think it's clean there.
we didn't vote on it.
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
It takes you so that
We didn't vote on it
I
yet.
didn't even move it.
No, I think we need a second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? No, we didn't. Now we voted on it. All right. That brings us to,
Can I just ask one more thing, speaking of minutes? Chuck said that it's not his son who makes the musical instruments. Who is it?
It's Chuck.
Chuck Joseph.
Oh,
DJ Joseph, yeah.
it's Chuck Douch.
No,
Okay.
No.
And if anybody has any other corrections on the last minutes, let me know.
I reached out to Chuck Joseph, haven't heard back. No,
Okay.
I'll push him. Okay, and that's it. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh.
Jack beans.
Second. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Well, early except for late, but I was trying to get this done by 8:30. Where did we? We got sidetracked on e-bikes.
Yeah.
And shoulders.
Well, I know that because I did a rotator cuff. There's really 2 options. But they have this thing called the French reverse.
Oh, just.
And then